This video is sponsored by Banish. So around a year ago, I was introduced to microneedling, but more specifically derma stamping. At first, I was honestly a bit scared and apprehensive to kind of actually try microneedling. But after doing some research and actually trying it for myself, I've been really liking it. And I also really believe in the science-backed evidence. It's honestly not as scary as you might think, and it's also not as difficult or expensive as you might think. My main worry myself was honestly just, is it even safe to do at home by yourself? But if you just follow the instructions, there's really nothing to worry about. I will touch more on this later. I'll be talking about what even is microneedling, why I decided to try it, and who I think it would also work well for, the science behind it, as well as I'll be showing a little demo of me doing it since I'm actually due for a session. And generally just what to even expect with microneedling the day of, the day after, weeks after, stuff like that. Quick note, this is not medical advice, it's just my personal experience, my personal knowledge. Also, like always, everything I say in this video is my honest experience, my honest opinions about microneedling. Okay, first of all, what even is microneedling? Microneedling basically uses tiny little needles to make safe, clean little punctures into the skin, which basically tricks the skin in thinking that it needs to heal, which induces collagen production, which speeds up skin healing. Doing this in a safe and controlled way can drastically improve things like pore size, fine lines, acne scars, and more. There are different types of microneedling, as I mentioned. For example, motorized microneedling, rollers, microinfusion, but personally I've just been really preferring micro stamping. You really get the most control over how many times you actually stamp the skin, as well as things like the pace, and I think more accurately able to actually target specific areas too. I think the actual roller options may be the most well known, but I don't think that they're the best option for beginners. A lot of them can be made of cheap materials, and I can imagine a beginner not wanting to kind of splurge on a more expensive device, and those cheaper materials can be detrimental. For example, needles that aren't sharp enough might not be able to create those clean punctures that we want, or materials that aren't very easy to sterilize, which is very important. As well as just the shape of rollers aren't very easy to sterilize in my opinion, in my experience as well. Also, there is some debate on the way that rollers actually go into the skin, if it's good or even problematic for the skin. With rollers, the needle does have a different entry and exit point, but with something like a stamper, it goes just straight in and out of the skin with the same entry and exit point, so it makes for a more kind of clean puncture. I'm not saying rollers are bad. I know some people have used them and it's fine for them, and some people in clinic use them. Just my personal opinion and my experience right now, I do think that the way that derma stampers go into the skin just seems like a more kind of logical option to me. Now, I've been testing a few different kind of microneedling devices, as well as their different price ranges and different actual methods of microneedling. But the one I've been really liking the most is the one from Banish. It simply just ticks all the boxes for what I'm most comfortable with using with a microneedling device. It has that stamping method with the quality material needles. They make it really easy to actually clean the device, but the main thing I love is the amount of clear and concise guidance they give the user. To me, that's really important. Like I said, I'm someone who was very nervous to actually try microneedling for the first time. Since getting perioral dermatitis years ago from doing something seemingly normal in skincare and just used a retinoid, which I've been using other retinoids for years, that causing PD did give me a bit of a skincare scare, if you want to call it. So for literally a year, it made me quite scared to even try any different types of treatments again. So really feeling like the brand is keeping me safe and informed while doing my treatment was really important to me. So since then, I'm very cautious with different skincare, but even so, the amount of kind of guidance and instructions that Banish gives, it really showed me they know what they're talking about, and I can trust them with trying something new with my skin. I don't think my skin is bad at all, but I do have things that I've been trying to improve for kind of years now, honestly, and they don't really seem to budge much. Things like very fine lines, but also very light hyperpigmentation. Although I have lighter skin, I am olive skin, so I do get hyperpigmentation decently easy as well. And on top of that, it can take a while to fade for me. I had kind of heard of microneedling before, but I always just assumed that it's a bit scary, probably a bit expensive, it's probably not something that I can really get into anytime soon. But I also did see plenty of people online have really amazing results with microneedling, so that did really make me want to look into it more. more. So the science behind it. There's been lots of studies over the years about microneedling that explore things like what length of needle is best and most effective for each concern, its effectiveness for improving anything from deep-pitted acne scars to just mild skin irregularities. There are studies supporting evidence showing that each different microneedling type is effective in stimulating collagen to improve those different skin concerns. As well as scientific studies, there is plenty of at-home evidence as well from people documenting their before and progress pictures when using microneedling. Even though I've seen those studies, it still really amazes me to actually see real people with real results and how drastically some people get those results. Now, when you can expect results generally depends on your skin, what you're treating, as well as your definition of results. For example, a pretty immediate result that I'll be showing in this video is how plump it makes your skin the very next day. But of course, if you want to improve something like acne scarring, that will take some time, again depending on multiple factors. For example, Banish says more permanent results in 3 months, but on average you should start noticing results within 4 to 8 weeks. Me personally, I do think it could be hard for me to tell with my results because the things I'm treating aren't exactly that obvious to see in the first place. I just kind of noticed that my skin generally looks nicer after a while of microneedling. So my specific routine, what does it look like? I'll be going in great detail to really give you an idea on how it actually works and what it's actually like having a little evening of microneedling. Again, little disclaimer, I always recommend just following the instructions that your specific device has. Obviously, I'm using the Banisher 3.0, so I'll be using their instructions. Regardless, I do think a lot of their instructions do work for other microneedlings too. Honestly, I've only recently actually felt able to be more consistent with my microneedling, but I really do feel good when I actually stick to my plan. So recently, I've been going with the 0.5mm needle for my face, so you can do it more often. I do think I could do it more often too. I don't think my skin needs that much downtime from it. I actually keep a very simple note on my phone that keeps track of when the last time I did microneedling was, as well as how many times I've used that specific head, just so I know when to replace that as well, otherwise I would never remember. So basically, whenever I feel like microneedling, I check my little notes app, and if it's not been that much time since my last session, I'll just kind of keep a mental note that, oh, maybe I can do it in a few days. You know, maybe, oh, today's Wednesday, maybe I can do it on a Saturday or something like that. One thing I will say is I do tend to not use any actives the night before I do microneedling. So if, for example, it's a Friday and I know I want to do microneedling on that Saturday, Friday night, I won't do any crazy actives or anything like that. Probably not really needed, but I just like to keep it safe. Just make sure my skin isn't already oversensitized from actives before then microneedling. So to start the session, very important, starting with cleaning your tool of choice. As I mentioned, I really do like that the Banisher has its own little kind of cap where you fill it with 70% isopropyl alcohol. You just plop the Banisher into that cap and let it sit. I also will clean the handle at this point with that isopropyl alcohol. And since I know it needs to sit in that isopropyl alcohol for around 5 minutes, I start a timer. I do things like whatever I need to do to prepare, tie my hair up, wash my hands, give my face a very thorough but also using gentle cleansers, double cleanse. I normally use these every day anyway, but I just make it a point that these cleansers also don't have any actives in them. So right now I've just been using a oil cleanser as well as a water-based cleanser after. I then dry my face off with a clean towel, and then by that time it's been around 5 minutes already. So I just pop the cap off. I let the microneedling device sit outside of the cap for 1 to 2 minutes just to dry off a little bit. Everything I do in this routine, by the way, I just make sure to make it a point to just do things slowly, just relax, just have a nice kind of microneedling session in the evening. I like to start in sections like the forehead. I know some people do different methods, but for me personally, I find it easiest to kind of do one section first. I press into the skin about 3 to 5 times, just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all over the forehead. Then I'll move on to the cheeks. And places I avoid around the face will include any active acne, as well as the area around my mouth. That's where my perioral dermatitis is. I have not actually tried it on that area before, but I just, again, like to keep it safe, because when the PD flares, the PD flares. So I just prioritize using the Banisher on the rest of my face, since honestly there's not really much I even want to kind of treat in the mouth area anyway. Like I mentioned, my priority is mainly fine lines on the forehead and some kind of light hyperpigmentation on the cheek, as well as pore size. Actually, I've been using it recently for pore size. So I stamp, and then I just make sure I've gone over any actual more specific kind of areas that I want to treat, like if there's a particularly dark mark I'm looking to treat or something like that. I just make sure I haven't missed those. Now, how does it feel? My eyes do kind of water when doing certain areas. For example, more bony areas I've noticed, like the forehead or like the cheekbones. And as always, I'm not gonna lie, you do feel some pain, but I wouldn't say it's painful. And again, even if you're a bit more of a sensitive person, I'm not really sure if other people find it more sensitive than me or not. I've heard a lot of people say that they don't find it painful, for example. But yeah, it's a very interesting feeling. I have heard it being described as like Velcro on the skin, which I do think that's an accurate way to describe it. So once I've done all over the face, I'll put the banisher back into the little cap to disinfect it once again. Then I will wash my hands again just to be extra safe. Then I will apply my skincare before leaving my skin alone. Normally I will apply the Banish serum, their vitamin C dark spot corrector, alongside with a very gentle no actives moisturizer, but I actually ran out of their serum recently, so I can't use that today. So instead I'll be using their vitamin C cream. I also really like this cream. I really like the texture it has. Now I know some people's methods are different from mine, of course. For the aftercare of microneedling, I don't think there's one right answer. I think there's lots of right answers, honestly, about what's best for the skin after microneedling. I know, for example, some people use hypochlorous acid sprays. That's something that I do want to try because I used to actually use hypochlorous acid sprays. I just don't have one right now, so I just haven't gotten around to using that or trying that after microneedling. Keeping the skin moisturized after microneedling, I think, is really, really important. As I mentioned, there are plenty of different ways people will treat the skin. For example, I can imagine using an occlusive layer would be really good after microneedling, but again, I have not tried that because of my PD. PD does not like to be smothered or anything like that, so that's the only reason I haven't tried that. But if I didn't have PD, I would probably be doing that, to be honest. My kind of mentality with treating my skin after is just keeping it light, gentle, breathable, but making sure to be very moisturized. So right after, I do notice my skin is more sensitized, more reactive. I already have decently reactive skin, I would say. Like if on a normal day, if I touch it, it will go a little red. But after microneedling, that is amplified a little bit, but that's completely normal. The rest of the night, I keep my hair tied up out of my face. One, because I know that the actual feel of my hair on my face will annoy me with the skin being extra sensitive, but also because, simply put, hair products, all that stuff shouldn't really be going onto the skin. In my opinion, it should be kept nice and clean right after microneedling. God, count how many times I say microneedling in this video. Again, I said this would be a detailed guide on what I specifically do. So another thing I do is I also change my pillowcase the night that I do the microneedling. We should be changing our pillowcases pretty often anyway, but I just make it a point to get a nice, clean, fresh one on that night. Also, I personally use a head wrap or a bonnet for my curls, so I will get a fresh one of those as well, just because I know that it touches the perimeter of the face. Also, just generally making an extra effort. Just try not to touch your face randomly. I know I personally do that a lot. It's a bad habit I'm trying to get rid of. So the morning after, in my experience, my skin still is a little bit sensitive, but I do notice I just feel a bit more renewed. I just feel a bit more glowy. My skin does feel more hydrated as well. Then in the morning, once again, I just keep it really simple. I do the vitamin C serum, I do my moisturizer, and I just do an SPF. Now, Banish recommends not doing any makeup for the next 24 hours after a microneedling session. I also don't know if tinted sunscreens count as makeup, but again, if you haven't noticed, I like to play it safe, so I don't use any tinted sunscreens I have, even if they're gentle otherwise. So just in case, for the next couple days, I do use a non-tinted gentle sunscreen. As I mentioned before, I do really genuinely like how the Banish system works. I also have used the 0.25 head for under the eyes and even the lips, and I do have the 1mm head, but I actually haven't gotten around to use it. For me, I would be using it on the body, but right now I'm honestly just more focused on treating the face, so I haven't tried the 1mm yet. I do have a code, by the way, if you're liking the look of Banisher, do check that out. I'll leave that on screen and down below. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while now. I do really feel Like every time I do a session, I feel like I'm actually being very productive with my skincare. I do really feel like lots of people, maybe even most people, could benefit from microneedling because its main thing that it does is just stimulate more collagen production. I do feel like lots of different skin concerns can benefit from that, as well as the fact that those different heads I was talking about a second ago aren't just for the face. You can use them for under the eyes, the body, lots of different uses. I also really do like how the different size heads can just ease a bit of that fear. If you're really nervous, for example, you could just start out with the shortest needle length. I do know that different needle lengths, obviously, you can feel them differently. So even if you're worried about the feeling, the shorter one will give you the least of that feeling. And I think it's been a while since I used the shortest length, the 0.25. I don't really remember feeling much at all using it on like the cheeks and stuff. You do feel it on the thinner skin, but when it's such a short needle length, it's really quite a gentle option. It's really nothing to be scared of, honestly. The mixture of picking your own needle length, the fact that Banish's method to disinfect really is very thorough. I have not seen that with every brand, for example. And the fact that with derma stampers, you go at your own pace, you go how many times you like, as well as whatever pace that you're specifically comfortable with. If you need to pause, take a break, you can always do that with at-home treatments. But yeah, it's really not that daunting once you actually try it. And honestly, the only way that I actually saw that it's not that scary was just trying it myself. You know, do what I do and make a kind of nice little self-care evening out of it. Do leave any questions down below. I'll do my best to answer them, or otherwise just sharing your experience with microneedling, if you've tried it or not, if you're on the fence. Whatever your experience, I'm interested to hear. I do have a couple other microneedling videos, so do check them out if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.